In 2017, the Community Foundation of the Fox River Valley produced this video to tell the story of the early history of St. Charles, Illinois. This video also is a tribute to the many residents of the city who have promoted philanthropy through our organization. Due to its length, the video is divided into 5 sections for the convenience of the viewer. These sections are a country town, building a city, the Gates Baker Norris era, education, and leisure, recreation, and parks. And now, the story of St. Charles, Illinois, Part 5. Leisure, Recreation, and Parks, 1834 to 2017. When the early settlers first arrived in St. Charles in the 1830s, they often felt isolated, having left their families far behind. To alleviate their loneliness, they forged friendships with their new neighbors by sharing in the building of homes and harvesting of crops. After their work was completed, they would gather in one of the homes to celebrate their accomplishments and enjoy their rare moments of leisure time. As more and more people put down roots in the settlement, the small log homes could no longer accommodate the celebrations. So schoolhouses then served this purpose. And later, churches, often referred to as meeting houses, fulfilled social as well as spiritual needs. During these years, hotels also provided places for folks to share their leisure hours together. In 1836 or 1837, the first hotel was constructed on the southeast corner of First Avenue and Main Street. Reports vary on the actual year of its construction, but the authors of these reports agree that pioneer Bella Thaxter Hunt, a settler from Massachusetts, owned the building for a brief period in the late 1830s and named it the St. Charles Hotel. After a quick succession of owners, Major Peter J. Burchell, the popular tavern keeper at the hotel, became the new owner and named it the Burchell Hotel. In addition to providing lodging, the hotel served as headquarters for recruiting soldiers for the Union Army during the Civil War. And it was visited by well-known figures of the day such as Stephen A. Douglas and Horace Greeley. By the 1890s, the hotel had fallen into disrepair and was eventually closed. After it was torn down, the site remained a vacant lot until the Arcada Theater was constructed in its place in 1926 by Delora and Lester Norris. Another hotel, the Howard House, opened in 1848 on 3rd and Illinois Streets. It provided space for holiday parties and military balls for the next 20 years. Its most famous guest was President Abraham Lincoln's wife, Mary Todd Lincoln. She stayed at the hotel for a brief period after her husband's assassination, seeking the guidance of the local spiritualist and psychic Carolyn Howard, who was the wife of the hotel proprietor Leonard Howard. In the 1880s, B.D. Mallory purchased the hotel, and it became known as the Mallory House. In the early 1900s, it continued to operate as a hotel under different management, before being converted to a factory and later an apartment building. After the renovation of its apartments in 2005, it was granted landmark status by the city of St. Charles. Hotels opened during the 1850s included the Tremont, which was located on the corner of Fifth Avenue and Main Street. The Tremont was built by attorney Stevens S. Jones, who suggested in 1839 that the town's original name Charleston be changed to St. Charles. The White Front Hotel was erected in 1851 on West Main Street between 2nd and 3rd Streets. It changed hands and purposes over the years, but remains one of St. Charles' oldest historic structures. In 2005, a total renovation of the building was completed with rental apartments on the upper floors and a restaurant tavern on the first floor. And finally, the St. Charles Hotel operated on the corner of 4th Avenue and East Main Street for many years. It is believed to have been built as early as 1851 under the name the Fox River House. The hotel was torn down around 1915 and replaced by the Illinois Cleaners and Dyers Building, which was constructed in the 1920s. As an aside, the White Front Hotel on West Main Street was renamed the St. Charles Hotel in the 1930s, after the St. Charles Hotel on East Main Street was no longer in existence. The name change only lasted a few decades. The name White Front Hotel remains at the top of the building. So, during the city's history, there had been 3 hotels with the name of St. Charles: the 1830s hotel, later called the Burchell, the St. Charles Hotel on East Main Street, and the White Front Hotel on West Main Street that changed its name to the St. Charles Hotel in the 1930s. As of 2017, there is no hotel in the city with the name St. Charles. In 1928, the premier downtown hotel was constructed on Main Street by Colonel Edward Baker. The hotel increased tourism to unprecedented levels and provided local residents with an elegant restaurant and lounge where they could socialize. Detailed information on the history of the hotel is covered in Part 3 of this video, the Gates, Baker, and Norris era. In the early 1960s, the Pheasant Run Resort opened on the east side of St. Charles, attracting thousands of tourists and conventioneers. According to Ruth Sean Pearson's book, Reflections of St. Charles, there is no question that the early hotels and their friendly taverns played an important role in the development of St. Charles by welcoming the travelers, providing community recreation, and hosting balls, rallies, and civic clubs. Most assuredly, the history of leisure time and recreation in St. Charles can be traced back to their hotels, as well as their homes, schools, and churches. However, as time elapsed, the city's natural resources provided the greatest opportunities for recreational activities and for the development of an extensive park system. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, the city had become a destination for those seeking outdoor leisure activities. People took advantage of the cool water of the river during hot summer days. And of course, boating was a favorite pastime, from the renting of rowboats and canoes to taking excursions with friends on one of the large riverboats. Winter recreation also was popular. 2 of the pastimes were skating on the river and engaging in the sport of curling. In the 1890s, Clinton Wing, the 2nd mayor of St. Charles, and Charles Haynes, the 6th mayor of St. Charles and a strong supporter of its public schools, developed property on the east side of the river into a private park. In 1892, they erected a stunning pavilion within the park, as well as playground equipment and picnic tables. In 1912, the land became a public park and was named the Potawatomi Park in honor of the Native American Potawatomi tribe. By the beginning of the 1900s, summer cottages, constructed near the banks of the river, served as weekend retreats. And then resorts became attractive vacation spots for visitors from near and far. One such resort, the Pinelands, was located north of Main Street on the east side of the river. It was so well regarded that a group from Chicago rented cottages at the resort for the summer of 1911 and transformed the newly built barn on the site for its clubhouse. Adding to the Pinelands' popularity was a large hall that attracted hundreds of patrons who danced to the music of Wayne King and Paul Whiteman. Just south of the Pinelands was Oak Ridge Camp, which provided cottages primarily for weekend retreats. The camp literally became a small town in the summer months, with its general store, pavilion, and playground. A third resort, Rainbow Springs, was owned by Lester and Delora Norris. It was a more affluent resort, offering a dining facility where meals were served. Located north of Potawatomi Park, the resort included cabins with screened porches, which added to the comfort of its guests. It even had a bathing pool for the children. Each of these resorts enhanced the image of St. Charles as a city that welcomed people of all ages to explore and enjoy its abundant natural resources. Each played an important role in the town's development, with tourism reaching its peak in the 1920s and 1930s. Unfortunately, in the late 1930s and early 1940s, World War II signaled the end of extended vacations along the Fox River. Yet, after the war, recreational activities for residents and day visitors resumed due to the extraordinary efforts of the St. Charles Park District. As background, the St. Charles Township Park District was established in 1911 due to the efforts of Bert Norris, uncle of St. Charles benefactor Lester Norris. In 1912, the Park District's first major purchase was the private park on the east side of the river that eventually was named Potawatomi Park. Potawatomi Park was the first public park to be established under the Illinois Parks Act of 1911. In the 1930s, further development of Potawatomi Park was made possible through funding received from Lester and Delora Norris and the federal government's Works Progress Administration, or WPA as it was known. The Park District also managed the construction of Langham Trail on the east side of the river with the financial help of the Norrises and the WPA. Following is a partial list of the many other projects and programs that have been implemented by the Park District, beginning with the dedication of the Potawatomi Park Amphitheater in 1938, the opening of the 9-hole Potawatomi Golf Course in 1939, which was designed by pioneer golf architect Robert Trent Jones, Sr., the launching of the paddle wheel riverboats in Potawatomi Park in 1946, and the renaming of the East Side Park in 1957 as a tribute to Colonel Edward Baker. Additionally, in 1966, the Park District assumed the management of the Henry Rockwell Baker Community Center on South 2nd Street in exchange for space to house its administrative offices. In 1971, the Park District purchased Mount St. Mary Park on Route 31 from the Dominican Sisters. Hazeltine Park on South 5th and Ohio Avenues was dedicated in 1974 as a memorial to schoolteacher August Hazeltine, who served the community for over 50 years. In 1981, Persimmon Woods on Kime Trail was acquired. In 1986, the Park District adopted a joint agreement with School District 303 to share the cost of constructing and maintaining parks at each school, such as this park at Munhall School. In 1990, Fearson Creek Park on Route 31 was dedicated. In 1991, Pottawatomie Community Center on North Avenue was opened. Otter Creek Bend Wetland on Crane Road was created in 1994. Primrose Farm Park on Bolcombe Road was dedicated in 1995. The Park District purchased land from the Norris Estate in 1998 and opened the Delnor Woods Park in 2000 on Fifth Avenue. The reconstruction of Pottawatomie Park's historic pavilion was completed in 2002. The James O. Breen Community Park, formerly known as Campton Hills Park, was titled to the Park District in 2003. The reconstruction of Pottawatomie Park's historic tower was completed in 2007 and named the James H. and Joanne N. Collins Tower to honor the role of the Collins and Norris families in the development of St. Charles. In 2011, the Park District celebrated 100 years of service. In 2012, it opened the Riverbend Community Park on the former site of the State of Illinois Youth Corrections Facility. And in 2014, the quaint, history-filled Belgium Town Park was opened on 9th Street. In addition to the more than 60 parks the Park District oversees, it also maintains miles of walking and bicycle trails, 3 dog parks, and over 400 garden plots. Other programs include a teen center, before and after school programs, adult activity center, and the Norris Recreation Center. This impressive list of recreational services expands each year. Through its thoughtful planning and exceptional management, the St. Charles Park District continues to add a meaningful dimension to the lives of its citizens. The early pioneers of St. Charles knew they had found a special place when they established their new settlement in the Fox Valley. They knew that the flowing river and peaceful woods were valuable resources that would provide unique opportunities for their work and recreation. However, they never could have imagined the lasting impact of those resources upon the future of their community, an impact that transformed their once sleepy village forever. For the city of St. Charles, the future is bright. The journey has just begun.